So those lashonos we actually enter into food when we say it. You know, it says in the Zohar Kodesh, describes matzah as lechem d'asvasa, lechem d'imhemusa. It says two different phrases. Lechem d'imhemusa means bread of emunah. So, you know, people have all the svarim speak about why does it say emunah, like how is it bread of emunah, how does it work? So Mansur once said, says a lot of times you see we open up the matzah on Pesach and you say things. You're saying magid, the matzah's open. There's so much diburim that's said. She says those diburim, those heilige diburim, those osios, those letters enter into the matzah, and it absorbs a lot of kedusha. So when you eat that, it gives over emunah into your whole system you could fuel up really for the whole year. All these things we just spent time in the sukkah. The sukkah is also called Tzeladim Himnusa. It's a shade of emunah. Some girl told me, she's like, I was telling her to get married. I was pushing her to get married, and she's like, Mitzvah Shem, it's related to emunah, zivugim, very much so. So then she's like, I was being mechazir that her tefillahs help. It has an effect. And she's like, oh yeah, sometimes I think, I don't know. So then I looked at her and I said, if you spend enough time in the sukkah and you eat a whole lot of matzah this Pesach, you'll see you won't be talking like this next time I talk to you. It's true. It's a mat. It has koach. We have to believe we're ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim that our diburim, that Maaseh Bereshis was created in Lashon Kodesh. We are ma'aminim. We are people that get together in a room that are ma'amin, that the letters that composes all of what we see is the letters of creation, is the oasis of Lashon Kodesh. In general, in Breslov, every Torah has to have a very strong dosage of azamra. There's a Torah that Rabbeinu has, Torah Reish Pei Beis. It's really the, when a person wants to enter into the threshold of Breslov, that's mamish like the threshold. It's a zamra. You have to be so engulfed with that, so being mitchazek with that. So for a while, when I was teaching Rabbeinu, I started first teaching Likkutei Moharan, and I was like, okay, so I saw that the Chevra needed more chizuk, so we did Meshivas Nefesh. It's a sefer that has all pieces from Reb Nachman and Reb Nassim, all on his chaskas, strengthening oneself. The point of his chaskas in Breslov is mainly fundamentally expressed through the Torah Azamra, Reish Pei Beis. And Rabbeinu said that goes with all my Torahs. He says with all my Torahs you can walk with, but with Azamra, he said you have to have that Torah in your pocket always. Meaning it goes with everything. Any Torah that you learn, if it doesn't have the ingredients already that Azamra put out, it could be a depressing Torah. Especially this one.
What is Azamra again? Like to see favorably each person?
Okay, so then I started coming. Then as I'm walking to the room, I'm like, maybe we should do Azamra, but So maybe we'll give like just a little synopsis, a little taste of Azamra. Maybe I'll give you a little chidush that I heard. Okay, Azamra is composed of always finding the nekudos tovos in oneself and other people. The Rebbe starts off the Torah by saying that one should judge everyone favorably, even a rasha gomor, even a complete wicked individual. It says that even though that he's a rasha, tzarich limtzo bo eze ma'at tov. You have to search and find within him a little good. Why? Shebe'oto ma'at, that in that good that you find within him, eino rasha. Rabbi says the guy's not wicked. He's not a wicked individual in that area. The guy might do a lot of sins in the book, Rahman al-Islam, but he has certain areas, a mitzvah, something, one thing. That's a nekuda tova. So in that Torah, Rabbeinu says, when you look at that person through that prism of that nekuda tova, you can actually bring that person to tshuva. Okay, so then he says, and so too, one has to do that on oneself. You have to find one's own nekudas tovas and how vital that is. So now I was thinking, so the main reason probably, the reason that people are far, or they keep themselves far from this reality of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is probably because they judge themselves heavily, very much on the side of guilt. Because it's a natural tendency for a person to look at his own darkness. Human reflection, it's built in within us that, especially if you're a Jew, I mean, how much more so if you're Jewish, that there's a tendency to look within yourself and to try to find something else. I'm just a little hot, so I'm going to take off. Yeah?
Yeah. Or if it's too loud, we can throw the AC on also.
Let's see how it goes.
Probably good.
Okay. So that's a Zamra. Okay? Basically, in a nutshell, being positive. Super positive, never letting the Yetzer Hara get you down. Just avoid it. It says, Vaser Satan milfanenu macharenu. Hashem, you should help me that the Satan you should protect me from the Satan, save me from the Satan, milfanenu, before us, umacharenu, and after us. What does it mean, milfanenu? Milfanenu means before the sin. When the Satan comes, the lady in red is like, come, So then what's macharenu? After a person gives in and he falls, then the Satan comes back. What does he come back with? You gave in already, it's done. And he says, what does he come back with? He comes back with looking at a person and saying, you loser. Especially when it comes to spirituality. You loser, look what you did. That's macharenu. He got you down already. No, but it's not enough. He has to mamish keep hitting. Right? Especially, by the way, that's where a Malik gets that's when he's most revved up, when he sees the Jewish people down. That's his time to okay, now I'm going for the kill. There was a rule in boxing they used to have, in amateur boxing, that when the one goes down, in order for the ref to start counting, the other boxer has to be in the corner already. If you look at the boxing matches, that every game, it was like you stand in the corner, the ref would come hold your gloves, he'd be like, you're good, you can wait here, yeah. So then you'd go start counting 1, 2. You wouldn't count unless the guy went in the corner. Why? Because obviously, if the guy's on the ground, he's trying to get up. If the other amateur boxer's around there and he's raging with, hate and this, that, he's going to knock him down again, right? While he's trying to get up. So that's primarily what Amalek wants to do. It wants to get us mamish like in the heel, like to keep us down. He wants to get us when we're trying to get up. Right? That's how you see with Yaakov and Esav, the struggle of getting out of the womb. Trying to get up. Right? In general, that's what we want to do. Now, if we don't have a Zamra with any advice from the Tzaddik, if you don't have the advice of looking at your positive points in life and being the simcha and always searching to find the good, and that's the tshuva process, if you don't view tshuva like that, then the whole Yiddishkeit looks really, really lame. I don't want to say that word, but it looks pretty, what the heck? Who would want anything part of this? You know what I mean? Like sometimes, I don't mean to judge, but I go and I see places where I feel like they don't have so much Rabbeinu in their life. And then I look at them like, how do they do it? It's so hard. When you look at tshuva like that, it's like, it's like a whole serious trip, Hashem Yerachem, you have to look at the positivity, you have to be with simcha. Rabbi Nachman says simcha equals connection to Hashem. If we don't have simcha, then it's a simon, you're not connected to Hashem. The Shekhinah is shora ela b'toch simcha. It's pashut, right? So coming close to Hashem has to be done with Nekudas Tovas, finding our positive points, how important that is to judge people favorably, to be able to look at someone's good. Even a big Russia, there's this guy at Breslov, he comes up to our band, he's like, yeah, but this guy's a Russia. Looked at him, he's like, what the heck is wrong with you? He didn't say heck, but what's wrong with you? It says something about you. If you don't see good in that guy, so you can't find something in that guy, then it says something about you. If you deemed him a Russia Gomer, that's it, fry the dude. Then something's wrong with you, man. You have to look at his good, what's wrong with you? That's how you bring people back to tshuva and Breslov. It's like you don't have to go on a, necessarily a mitzvah tank and run around, not to make fun of anyone. It's great. But you could do major kiruv by looking at Jews and judging them favorably by finding their good nekudas. Somebody was talking about a Zamra. Reb Nassan was at the table and he laughed and he said, if we took a Zamra seriously, potentially, he said, me and you, he said, we could bring the whole world back to tshuva. Wow, it's amazing. Two people could sit and bring the whole world back to tshuva. How do you do that? You look at the good. Rabbeinu says a segula for hasmada. People want to learn yeshiva; they want to be learners. So how do you get to learn? You have to be a person that steigs. You put in harvanya. You put in time. You You spend time by the Torah. You sit by the river, like Jerry Garcia says, sitting by the river to sing sweet song to rock your soul. He's talking about your friends we were teaching of that means Torah and Mayim al Torah. You sit by the river, you learn, you steig, you know. So hasmada, keeping up, like keeping your sidarim. That's how you can learn how to really grow in Torah. So Rabbeinu says, what's a segula for hasmada? You know, people get prevented to learn. You know, you want to learn, you make it think, okay, I'm going to learn, and then you get prevented. What's going on? How do I break through that barrier to keep my limudim? So he says, a segula for hasmada is that you never talk bad about any Jew. Ever. He says that's mamash's why. So if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. We're all letters in the Sefer Torah, right? So if we're bashing each other, and oh this one, oh that one, oh this, oh that, right? Then the Torah is not really connected. So you can't access your learning really, because you're causing all these blocks. I told my guys I teach Bukharian street kids. You know what I'm saying, the ones that are I used to, when I first started my job, I was like, if I get on their bad side, it wasn't my slash my tires, and stuff. I was like, the heck with this, I don't care, I'm not afraid. There was a guy that he almost got hit by a bullet once, he got grazed, but it was like, serious activity, But I was like, the heck with it, I don't care. I stood up to some of these guys and this time, and we ended up rapping together. We really bonded. So, but the Nakuda is, right? I told them right before we're learning, because a few guys just curse each other out, right before we started learning. Like a little. So then I was like, I stopped, the Mamash today, and I gave a whole schmooze, and they took it very well. I was like, and it made sense to them. I said, if we're bashing each other and we expect a steig, you know what I mean? It's Mamash, it's like an oxymoron. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. If we don't respect the letters in the Sefer Torah, which is each other, we don't see the good within the letters of the Sefer Torah, how do we expect to see the good in the Torah? How would you expect to learn? You probably won't be interested in learning. Doesn't look attractive. So the Zrat Hashem. So Azamra teaches us always to find our good and always to be positive. So that goes with every Torah. Okay, let's take a little breather and we'll start Torah tests. Cheers. What? This guy.
Yeah, that's not the Modelo. That's the beer. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks.
Everyone lives here?
Yes.
I know.
Really? Who said I don't?
Yeah,
Oh, really? Where do you live?
I live in Central Park West, 103rd Street.
Oh, but I'm saying close. I mean, you don't live in Queens.
I live in this way, yeah. I used to live in this way.
On the way here, it was so trippy, man. I stopped. I was driving my car, and then I was just like, I had my easy pass. See, whenever you want to do something for Rabbeinu, there's always these crazy. It was mamish like Indiana Jones. I get to I see the easy pass, but then I saw, oh man, I kept on looking where is it? Then I saw it fell between the chair and the. That area, the glove, the thing, the chair.
It's like Indiana Jones.
Yeah, so then I went in, I'm like, okay, fine, I'm gonna get it. So then, but I couldn't do it while I'm driving, so I went in, where two highways go like this, and so the middle, where there's those big, plastic things of water.
Barrier.
Right, I was right there, I was like, so it's a risky move as it is, what if some Indian cab driver doesn't know, what time of day it is, So then I was there, then I was like, I'm gonna get it. So then I saw it was stuck. His mom's like Indiana Jones. I was like, no, come on, So then I was like, and then I was like, what is it? It's probably stuck between the metal part and the car. So I was just, trying to move it, and then I was like, no, the sticky part of the Easy Pass, it was in the carpet. It was so I had to cut it off. Or it was mom's insane. So I was like, no, but it makes perfect sense. Whenever you want to do something for a Rabbeinu, it's wow, it's crazy minyan, I'm just I hope a car doesn't hit me, Finally, I turned around, I ripped it out. I was like, okay, what a shot. To me, it was I was happy to be alive, I was anyway, sorry. All right, let's go on. So this guy's I live a block away. I'm like, oh, Nebuch, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, fine. Sifra this news. Okay. Tefillah lechabaku. This is a part in the Zohar. It's called Sifra Ditzniuta. Okay, and it brings this pasuk Tefillah lechabaku kanavi al shigyono Rabbeinu. Rabbeinu himself brings this pasuk, and he only connects it only at the end of the Torah. Ita b'sifra disniuta, pirka kadma'a. It's brought down in the Zohar, the Heilige Zohar HaKadosh, in Parshat Teruma, Daf Kuf Ayin Vav, Amud Bet. It says over there, Al ad de lo have matkala, until, very peculiar line, until the scale came along, lo have mashkichin apin ba'apin. The relationship, the connection was not face to face.
What's maskala? What does that word mean?
Matkala means a scale. So until the scale came along, until order came along,
Oh, makes sense. Yeah.
until that came along, then the relationship between us and the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Kiviyachol, there wasn't a relationship of whatever that means between who and who, but it wasn't a relationship of apin ba'apin, face to face. That's what the Zohar says. Now, let's check this out. This is how this Torah, the curtains of this Torah open. It's very interesting. Kikosh la'olam. It's difficult for the world to understand. Why is it important to travel to the tzaddik and to hear Torah from his mouth? Shouldn't it be? It should be easy enough to sit back and just learn a sefer of Musar. Why do you have to travel to go somewhere to hear it from a tzaddik's mouth? However, Rabbeinu says, the emes hu to'eles gadol. The truth is that he has a tremendous to'eles. Ki yesh chiluk gadol ben hashomea mipi hatzadik ha'emes ba'atzmo uben hashomea mipi acher ha'omer bishmo. Because there's a great difference between someone that hears from the lips of the tzaddik, from the true tzaddik, as opposed to hearing it from someone's lips that heard it from him. Mikol shekin kishashomeh mipi sheshama mipi hashomea. For sure, if you're hearing it from someone that heard it from someone that heard it from his lips, ki yored bechol pam midarga ledarga. Every time it goes from level to level. Rachok mipi hatzadik, far from the lips of the tzaddik. B'chein bein hashomea mipi hatzadik l'ma'ayin b'sefer. And so too, the difference between hearing it from the words of the tzaddik, from the lips of the tzaddik, and to look at a sefer. It's a very long chiluk.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Stop.
By the way, this is a complete open forum.
First and foremost, don't. Like, he makes a kal v'chomer, but he doesn't explain the kal v'chomer. Meaning to say, it's clearly worse to hear from a rumor than to hear it directly from someone's mouth. That I get. And then it says, kal v'chomer if you read it from a book. What's the connection?
So, when we were learning it, we were like, is he saying, look from the sefer on what level? Is it like you heard it from someone, or is it like the furthest away? Sounds like it's saying that if you hear it from someone that heard it from someone, even that heard it from someone is still more advantageous than just looking in a sefer, right? If you look at the words, right? He says, because every time it goes down levels, and he says, V'chein, and so too, let me just give you another thing, by the way. Bein hashomeh mipi hatzadik, from hearing from his mouth, l'ma'ayin b'sefer, and what's that? Uchiluk gadol beyoter. That's it sounds like that's like the greatest.
Sure.
Right, so what do you say?
So what's the logic behind that? Like, I get it. If I hear something,
right.
From you,
like
about him,
right.
It's not going to be from him.
Basically,
but if I read it from a book, which was written by Benji, great. What's the...
No, but that's very far, because you're not getting Benji's like energy. You're not getting his... See, when I went to Shar Yashiv after Shlomo Freifeld passed away, I never met him. But everyone that was around, all the Rebbeim, they were like, the Rebbe says, the Rebbe this guy's telling me the Rebbe had his own recipes for herring. I could almost smell the Rebbe. You know what I'm saying? There was something, it was brewing. It was the old building Shar Yashiv. It was like, I'm telling you, I felt this like pull, this love, and he wasn't even there. Just the stender. But he's saying there's something that's a benefit to something that penetrates, that when you just look in someone's sefer, you look, it's good. It's not saying that it ends as, you look in a sefer, so far there's not really a connection there. No, there's a connection. He just called it rochel. It's a chiluk gadol. It's a big difference. Then hearing from the Ramchal from his lips, then reading Mesilas Yesharim, it's a world of difference. If the Gra was like, I'll crawl on my hands and knees to go hear from the lips of the Ramchal, then listen, the Gra didn't waste time. You know what I'm saying? He didn't waste any time. Like even for him, to walk around the building was like, oh, it's a bittul Torah. Like it was like mamish, like he was davik to the Torah. He was like a chefse shel Torah. So what? He now he's like, okay, I'll be like a hippie. I'll crawl on my hands and knees. You know, I'll hitch rides until I get to the Ramchal. What's going on? How much Torah are you going to be losing? Don't you know that? Yeah, Taka, it's worth it. It's worth it to hear it from the Piyat Tzaddik. Something happens to you. There's something that takes place. The Rebbe has another Torah is things that happen when you hear from the words of a tzaddik. For example, the inyan of shiduchim zivugim, because there's inyanim there where the Torah, let's say the tzaddik is there to say the Torah it says one thing here, it says one thing there, two separate things. How do you understand the two? So he makes a connection. So the Rebbe says that's bechinas zivug, shiduchim, right? So it's a segula when you hear Torah from someone that has das. It's a segula for shiduchim. That's a separate thing. But there's benefits. There's benefits from hearing, Torah from tzaddik. We see that there is. Rabbi Shmuel Horowitz is a descendant of the Shlach Kadosh. He became a Breslover. Once he discovered Rabbeinu's Mahalach, he just, people that were, you have to understand, hundreds of years ago, when someone became a Breslover, it was like, I give up kavod. You understand? Because Breslover wasn't, such a Hasidus that people were like, he's talking Breslover, They were like Nebuch and even worse. Some people were like, we gotta stop them, they're nuts, whatever. But they want, they wanted Rav Nosson killed, Anyway, whatever. So anyway, so let's go back. So fine. So we see that there's a major difference.
So the answer to your question though is that it's a parallel. It's not a kal v'chomer that he brings.
He presents it as a kal v'chomer. It's a kosher game, which is a kal v'chomer.
Yeah. But you see,
he also presents kal v'chomer shomea mipi shomea, which basically means that the problematic. It's problematic in as much as it is a rumor, in as much as it's a game of telephone, as much as it is farther extended from the word or the mouth, and you're missing.
We have to understand.
I don't think there's any way to read it.
Okay, wait. We have to understand. We're going to have to understand why the Rebbe decided to start with this. And basically, the basic question is what they did. What's the Rebbeinu saying? Why is he starting this? What does this have to do with anything? Okay, so for that we have to keep reading, and you're gonna have even more questions because the second piece you're gonna be like, what does that have to do with the first piece, right? But once you start making these connections, by the way, there's tremendous benefits that our souls get when you make these when you figure out what these connections are. So let's look at bed maybe, but unless if you guys want to discuss all.
No, we can always come back. We'll just read the Torah. Always get back. It's chazara.
Yeah. Ki tzarech lezakech es achonim. Very interesting. It's needed to cleanse one's face. So now we're not talking about botanicals or whatever. Let's see what Ravina is saying. So ki tzarech lezakech is you have to clean your face. What does this mean? One has to clean his face to such a level to what? Sheyuchal kol echad liros, that everyone can see when they see your face. Es ponav beponim shalo. They see their own face when they look at your face. The what? Kemo b'mara, like a mirror. Wow. Sounds like he's talking about big tzaddikim. These are like huge tzaddikim. Ada shebelo tochacha below musar. Until that, how much more so that he just looks at the person's face, and without any tochacha, without any musar, the guy himself, yitcharet chaveru teikef al masif. He'd start thinking, oh man, I gotta change my ways. He'll start regretting his bad actions, his bad ways. Just from looking at the guy's face, from looking at your face, the guy should just feel naturally, I should be a better person. Ki al yidei shiyabit beponim shelo, because from looking at his face, yira et atzmo kemo b'mara eich panov meshuka b'choshech. He'll start to think, wow, how my face is sunken in darkness. It's a heavy key. Okay, remember, again, the Kippah Zamra always with Rabbeinu. So it sounds like he's talking about, Reb Nosson explains, he's talking about, let's say, the Tzaddik Amis. When a guy sits down, with Rabbeinu, he didn't have to really say much there was those two major apikoursim, like they were like part of the Haskalah movement. They were like heavy. The guys used to like learn, mamish learn on Shabbos and smoke, and really like guys that were like heavy into the Haskalah. They didn't believe in like the mysticism of Judaism, the connection to Hashem. And they disproved everything, whatever. And when Rabbeinu moved to Uman, so some of these guys, they came around. First, they came around to make fun of Rabbeinu. They came to really, to say like, who's this? Another chacham came to town. Let's go show how he's a complete. So they made this whole mathematical equation, right? Whatever. This whole and basically Rabbeinu just completely tied what he said into this mathematical equation, and he said, and basically they were like floored, and they were like, this guy's amazing. So they used to hang out with Rabbeinu, these heavy-duty maskilim. They were like, we like play chess with them, just chill with these guys, Rabbeinu. And one time the door opened, and Reb Nassan and Reb Naftali walked in. And I think they were discussing about a certain Torah, that it should be written or printed or whatever, like it should get out. And they were talking to Rabbeinu with such focus and such yira. These guys were like sitting on the side, they were like, yo. These guys are like, serious. So when they left, they looked at Rabbeinu and they were like, Rabbi, we feel bad. I'm like, why? He's like, why? He said, these guys come in with such a pachad, and we like chill with you, we like play chess, we smoke, whatever, So then he's like, no, with them I run the world. You guys play chess. It's just so cute. It's like and so these guys, you should know these guys that used to hang out with him. One of them, Rav Hirsch Ber, he was a heavy-duty Moscow when he first came, very anti. He came, some Hasidim asked him on the street, they were like, how do you feel? You hang out with this like tzaddik, how do you feel? He's like, I'm telling you, I don't know what it is. He says, the guy doesn't say a word of Torah to me, not a word of Torah. He says, but every time after we hang out, we play chess, I feel like I want to run in the streets and scream, Hashem, Hashem Echad. They just want to start like roaring. I don't know why I'm bugging out, See what stuff's going on. There's like, there's this fusion taking place with these guys. When Rabbeinu died, Hasidim were like, mourning over the Rebbe. So this guy was like, you guys are crying, you guys are sad. He said, you want to know something? He said, if this guy would have stuck around, he said, you would have seen me davening on Shabbos, like mamish during the week with, he was already growing his beard, he was wearing tzitzis, they say. This guy, Rabbeinu moved into a house in Uman. The previous person that lived there, his name was Nachman Nassim. Isn't that true? Mm-hmm. His name, the guy that lived there before Rabbeinu got there, the guy that used to live there, his name was Nachman Nassim, and he had a rule in that house. Listen to this. And this Maskil, the Jew that lived in that house, had a rule that you never mention God in this house. No reference to God. And that was the house that in the carriage where Rav Nassim was going together with Rabbeinu to Uman, that he stayed in Uman. Right? It's interesting that about, we know that 30,000 people were killed in Uman. Reb Chaim Kramer said this here. He says, people say, why do you go to Uman? There's such a mysterious nefesh there. There's such a koch and mysterious nefesh. The Rebbe's thing is mysterious nefesh. So he says, why don't you go to Auschwitz? So Reb Chaim Kramer said, he said, yeah. He said, the difference is, in Uman, they died willingly. I don't know if you know the story. There's a guy, his name was Ivan, he set some sort of canopy, and he took all the Jews and he shoved them into one space, and he says, whoever walks under the canopy will be spared. What was walking under the canopy? If you accept upon yourself the Christian religion, as like a priest or whatever. So then he's like, he gave that offer, and not one man, woman, or child walked out to go under the canopy. So they were all killed, every single one, right? Willingly. and men, women, children were killed willingly in this place. And it's interesting that around the same numbers now come back to serve Hashem there. Right? It's interesting.
Yeah.
So, there's a schus in being part of the, like Rabbi Nosson said, the Rabbeinu Sack. He's the chassidim that are mamish in his heart, that are cooking in his heart. There's a big schus. But learning the teachings even from a sefer, right? So we can connect Beis and Aleph together in a certain sense. We could say maybe Beis is saying part of the benefits of seeing the face of a tzaddik, that a person might start to reflect upon his own actions. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Gimel.
So the tzaddik is a mirror.
Yes.
It's cool.
Every time, I don't know how many from Zohar to be by, but really...
Seemingly no one can mirror.
What?
That seemingly no one can mirror.
Yeah.
I was by a certain tzaddik, I remember it was one sukkah, we by a certain rabbi, and he was, I think what Moshe Weinberger's was, we were with I think the Mulkacher rabbi in Borough Park, and he was sitting at the table, and he started just talking, he was since his base of Shoeva, it's a very happy time. And people were like, Mamash, the music in Mulkacher is very heavy, so all of a sudden he started talking about the Lulav and Esrik, and he started crying at the table. Sukkahs in front of all the Tziddim. And he started crying and he started saying that these hands are zoche to hold the oisius of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yud Kei Vav Kei, because he was saying that Yud Kei Vav Kei is manifest in the Lulav and Esrik. So he was crying, he was like, how could it be that these hands could hold Hashem? And he started bawling, and I'm telling you, a lot of us also, we didn't fully understand all the Yiddish, but we got what he was talking about. So people started crying too. There's a benefit. When you sit by inside, there's a certain hashpah. Why would you cry? He's a tzaddik, he's crying about that he's holding Yud Kei Vav Kei. What are you crying about? You're crying. Because if he's crying that he's holding Yud Kei Vav with his hands, look how holy his hands are. What about me? Hashem Yerachim. So how much more so should I be? I'll have this kama, right? So, when you're by a tzaddik, something happens. We were with Ezra Academy this past Shabbos. We went to what's it called, to Muncie. There's a whole bunch of bells of Hasidim that they're mad into Kiruv now. They would take Bukharian kids into their home. Really, it's awesome. So on Shabbos, they told, we had a suda together, and they told the Nikolsberger Rebbe to come. It's a Rebbe in Muncie, tzaddik. He comes in, I'm telling you, the guys tell me right now in Ezra, they're like, it's as if time and space stopped. This shining tzaddik comes in, and he talks to these guys in English. He calls Hashem the Lord Almighty. This old school tzaddik, you don't know, he blew everyone away. And then at the end, because we had girls also, so all of a sudden, he noticed that, and then he's like, he said a word for the girls. He said something really spooky. All of a sudden, he stops. He's like, "You want to know something?" He says, he says, out of these girls, he says, there's a girl here right now that's a descendant of kings. So all the guys are like, yo, he's got my girl, So he's like, there's a girl here that's a princess. And then all of a sudden, he stops and he's like, and it's every single one of you. All the girls are like, already, he penetrates into hearts. You know what I'm saying? Like a tzaddik, there's something that goes on. You start to think, after a while, you spend time with someone that's, shining such a light. You start to see yourself. You start to be like, where am I holding in terms of holiness? That's so sweet. That holiness is so sweet. So how am I bringing that sweetness into my life? What's going on? You know what I'm saying? So that seems like that's what Beis is saying, and you can tie it into Aleph a little bit.
Something cool, people are like, oh, I went to tzaddik, he read my mind. Pick a card, any card.
Yeah.
But Rabbi Nachman saying is that a real tzaddik didn't even say anything.
Yeah, it just shines.
Yeah.
And you see yourself.
Right.
I said,
Anyway.
I've never face to
Yeah.
face who does that. So we're doing
What? Who? Yeah, who?
I'm sure Rebbe.
Yeah. By the way, you should know.
She's right there.
You should know. I never felt in my life such a heightened state of concentration and focus by an individual in the whole entire world. I spoke to a lot of people about Hashem. I've been around the block, you know. But that type of focus that the Amshon of Rebbe had, I was like, holy cow. Scary. I was like, dude, it's looking, bro. He's like focused, like nothing in the world. There's no static. I was like, yo, he's looking. So then I was like, I told him stuff, and he was so connected to my speech that it was like nuts. I was like, I got afraid because I told him, when I was a bacher, I was like already, I was like 30 and I still wasn't married, so I wanted to ask him for a bracha. So then I was like, can I have a bracha for a shidduch, and I mentioned, I'm 30 years old, I'm still not married. And then he was like, he made this noise like, and I was like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, because it was intense, bro. He really like felt for me, and it was just like, he was so focused, and then I asked him, do you have any advice? So he gulps, like, because he was so like devastated from that. I told him I wasn't married yet, and then he told me like a little piece of advice, and that helped me get married, and that helped me really to find a wife, because if it wasn't for, and I had to hear that it was for me, because the way I was looking for a woman, I had my own style of rejecting and this, that, so he gave me a little, it was just a drop, he hardly spoke, he said, just try doing this, and he was like, no, it's for me, I was, like, whatever, it's specific, I can tell you later, whatever. So, but anyway, but yeah, the focus, the being face to face with it, it's like, whoa, it's like, holy cow. You talk to other people, you can smoke a cigarette, you can chill, you can take a few shots, With him, you're just like, yeah, I better be here because he's so here. Yeah. He's like, mommy in there somewhere. So yeah, there's a benefit of face to face, and okay. Gimel starts a whole new adventure. Okay, maybe we'll start it, but you should know the topic, and if you do know the topic, maybe next week more people will come, maybe next week a lot less people will come. This topic is probably the main thing that the world is struggling with, right? Maybe the temptation of sexuality. Okay? So we're gonna be discussing that. Okay. Gimel. Ki gadol yakar ha'erech shel lashon hakodesh. You have to know the preciousness, the value, the erech, the value of lashon hakodesh. Why? Shebo nivra olam. You have to know the world is created from that, from lashon hakodesh. It's not stam dibur. It's the fabric of creation. Kema mar chachamenu zal, as our Chazal have taught us, right? Lezot yikare isha. The pasuk says, other Rishon said, this one I'll call isha, ki meish lukachazos, because she was taken from ish. Other Rishon called his wife isha, and he says why in the pasuk. Why am I calling her isha? It's a play on words. It's a lashon nofel al lashon, because she was taken from ish. Who the heck is Ish? Ish was what man was created, man was named from the beginning of creation. He was called Ish. Lashon Kodesh, those letters, Aleph Yud Shin, that was man. She says, I'm going to call her Isha, because I'm called Ish. So any other language you translate it, besides English a little bit, there's woman, man, woman, But otherwise, it doesn't sound similar. Like in Persian, man is mard, and woman is zan. Just kidding, it sounds completely different. The pasuk saying that why am I calling her Isha? Because she was taken from Ish. So what did Chazal learn from there? It's called Lashon Nofel al Lashon. Mikan shenivra olam b'Lashon HaKodesh. Chazal learned from there that the world was created from Lashon HaKodesh. So see, that's why she's called Isha. She's taken from Ish. We see those letters as part of the fabric of creation. Right? That's what other Rishon was saying. So far, so good. Now, Now, Rabbeinu says, okay, that's a nice chazal, it's amazing, it's beautiful. Let's take it a step further. There's a specific reason why this inyan that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the whole world with Lashon HaKodesh, it came out from the inyan of women. There's a reason why Chazal proved the world was created from Lashon HaKodesh when the pasuk was talking about ladies. What's going on? Something's going on. There's a connection between Lashon Kodesh and women. Okay, let's see. The Zeh Bechinas Chava, Rabbeinu says, you should know this is the aspect of Chava. Bechinas ve'layla le'layla yechave. From night to night, right? The night will tell, will say. We see from here that the word Chava is referring to speech. The word Yechaveh in the pasuk means will tell. And from night, that one night to the next night will tell. Right? Will tell, Yechaveh. Oh, that's the shorish of the lashon for Chava, of speaking. Speech is connected to Chava. Rav Moshe Weimer once explained, he wrote 2 words on the board in Ezra Academy. It's great. We're learning Kabbalah like as kids. We're like in high school. We're like learning Kabbalah. It's awesome.
When was that?
So, dude,
a couple years
I'm
ago.
36 now, so.
Wait, you had Rav Moshe Weimer as a rabbi?
Yeah.
Cool. Oh,
Came down, sometimes it comes in these really intense moments. He writes 2 words on the board. Kol and Dibur. And he just sits down. He's like, sup. You guys know what this means? And we're like, one guy's like, yeah, Kol is like voice, right? And he's like, yeah, very good, very good. And then he's like, and then Dibur is like, and one's like, Dibur is speech. And he's like, yes, very good. So then he starts blowing. He blows us away to Mars. He starts saying that Kol is connected to the masculine. So that's where everything comes from. And Dibur is when it's developed. That's connected to women. The woman symbolizes Dibur. Man's seed comes from man, and it gets developed inside of the woman. So what does it mean developed? Developed, that's like speech. The sound comes, right? That sound is like the seed. But the lips, the mouth articulates and forms it into words. That's Dibur, that's women. So Olam Hazeh, it symbolizes one big, we're like in a womb, we're like inside, we're developing to be born and to get into Yom Shekula Shabbos, where we live based on our efforts from Erev Shabbos, from here, from being in the womb. By the way, Rabbeinu was born Erev Shabbos, like in the most intense time, like right when Erev Shabbos is getting into Shabbos. That's where Rabbeinu was born. So don't worry, like if you have a bug out kind of life, you came to the right place. Rabbeinu is like mamish, like he's a good source for calming things down, like mamish. It's appreciated by a lot of people. But anyway.
What else did Rav Weimer tell you in high school?
He told us a lot of things. We asked him anything, dude. We were just like, certain guys asked him questions, about guys and girls and this and that. And just like, he's very straight up, right? And it was so cool to be able to speak to someone. And it was cool. We spoke. None of us giggled. We were all like mature. We were all just like, we were talking about sexuality and this and that with a Rebbe. Very open, very but just from the conversation, without like getting into to be immature, that in itself took us to a level of holiness a little bit. And so from the fact that it was discussed, that it was brought out to the table, it was like, it's amazing. Okay. In any case, we see that speech is connected to women. Okay? Haynu b'chinas hadibur shalosh nekodesh shibon nivra olam. So listen to this again. Let's just go back. V'zeh b'chinas chava. Look at this again. This is the aspect of chava. What does the word chava mean? Remember this. What does it mean? What's the shorish? B'chinas v'layla l'layla yechaveh. It's a pasuk in Tehillim. When I learn my Chavrusa B'Tzimar, we look up the pasuk. We mamish look at Rashi. L'layla yechaveh. One night will recount to the other. Will tell to the other. Will tell. Yechaveh is to tell speech. Women are connected to speech. What kind of speech? Haynu b'chinas hadibur shalosh nekodesh. Rabbeinu says women's essence comes from the dibur, from the speech of Lashon HaKodesh that the world was created. You understand? There's a certain draw to it. There's a certain development that takes place in it. Speech is what developed everything. Women, that whole enticement and that pull towards a woman and what a woman is responsible for developing, for bringing, like, you know, it's connected to Lashon HaKodesh. And that's what it says. Allah said, this one I will call Isha, meaning who will I call Isha? I will call Dibur. I will call Hainu Adibur. He's naming, he's calling Dibur Isha. Kamo, as it says, it brings another pasuk. You see the Zot is referring to Dibur. Vezot asher diber lahem. This is what you should speak to them. You see that Zot, you can make like a, in the Gemara, like a Zera Shava. So Zot over there is talking about Dibur. Zot by Isha is talking about Dibur. Zot Yikar Isha. Rabbeinu is saying, you know what Adam Rishon was saying? Adam Rishon was revealing that speech is women. Okay?
Also, the continuation of that pasuk is "Ein Omer Vein Devar Mishmishim."
Oh, wow. By the way, you see, when you look at the whole pasuk, it's mamish gevaldik. Say that again. Eino never ein devar.
Omer Vein
Ein
Devar.
Omer. Wow.
Linish Makol.
Linish makola. Wow.
You also need to do.
You don't say, you're not,
Oh, Linish Makol.
Hear,
yeah.
hear your voice without words.
Without the cold.
And your voice is nothingness without the words. Yeah.
Very nice.
About.
I like shot just like came down, right? We're just like, oh, he's a chap. We thought that's what you were saying, and then we're like,
Yeah, I was saying.
thank you, Rabbeinu.
Exactly. You think it's,
No, I don't feel to understand.
you say nothing, you hear nothing that's heard.
So you're just saying
without
like
words.
deeper and cold a little bit, right?
A little bit.
Ain't Omer Vein Devar Linish Makol. So it's
One
like
is
the man is the
depending
call,
on the
the D-boy is already been that.
And by the way, maybe that's why women are so connected to men, because husband and wife, you know, Alecha Teshukato, that if a woman, if you say something just slightly derogatory, she could show like
No words without
a
words.
dry leaf.
Right.
It's connecting to
Men, feet stink. It's like,
last year's highlight was Joey's Torah on women speaking so much. Right? Okay, I'll leave it at that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he gave like a whole shir about that. Yeah.
And they don't necessarily say so much. They speak a lot.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's what Joey said.
all right, Geschmack.
Keep going.
Fine. V'al yedei lashon hakodesh. Listen to this. Here we go. V'al yedei lashon hakodesh lo mamanu mikol lashonos, and from lashon hakodesh, that's the loftiest from all lashonos. Ready for this? Shekol halashonos amim noflim al yedei lashon hakodesh, that all the languages of the world fall and are submissive to lashon hakodesh. What does that mean? He says, Hainu, shehara sheyesh halashon shel ha'uma achizabo. You should know, the evil of that nation, whatever nation it may be, is very much connected to, it's linked to the language of that nation. Yeah? Hainu, shehara sheyesh halashon shel ha'uma achizabo. Nisbatel, it would be completely obliterated. V'nofel, and it would fall al yidei lashon hakodesh. From lashon hakodesh, picture lashon hakodesh emanating out of the ground like Hebrew letters. All of the lashonos are just like, you know, like, you're the man. You know. Nofel al yidei lashon hakodesh. Ve'ein lo shlita al Yisrael. And he's saying, you want to know if lashon hakodesh is the shteimus? We'll discuss what that means. But if lashon hakodesh is strong, then it won't have none of the evil of all the nations will have any control on Yisrael. And he says, that's what it means when Rashi says over there, Lashon Neufel al Lashon. That all the other Lashonis would bow and be submissive to Lashon HaKodesh.
How does that connect back to Meish Lukaza?
So,
it's the same language.
because Meish Lukach Hazot proved that the world was created from Lashon HaKodesh.
So it's not elaborating on the relationship between man and
It's
wife.
it's going to connect it now. It's going to connect it all now. In this next
Right,
shtick.
go for it.
Now, V'hara hakola. Now listen to this. Oh, Rabbi Yonatan, here we go. and the Ra HaKola, the all-encompassing evil. Shekol Haraos Shel Shivin Loshon Kalulin Bo, that all of the 70 languages of the nations of the world are included, all their evil, if it's brought together and included in one massive evil, is what? Da'ainu Tave'eres Hamadura Shel Tavis Nif, the fiery furnace of the desire of sexuality. Shekol Hashivin Loshon Mishukayin Ukadulin Bo, that all of the 70 languages, all of the impurity of all the nations of the world is included in it. But it would be nofel v'nisbatel, it would fall and be obliterated next to Lashon Kodesh. Ve'ein lo shlita al yedei Lashon Kodesh. Major thing Rabbeinu is putting on the table. Lashon Kodesh is a power to diminish the general evil of all the evils put together, which is niyuf, taivas niyuf, and has the power to completely obliterate it. Now we'll have to understand what Lashon Kodesh is talking about. What are we talking about Lashon Kodesh? And how does that counteract the type of sexuality? So our friend was also asking, what's this connection with Chava? What's going on? Now if you bring Chava into the equation, we can understand. If we bring women into the equation, you can understand. They get their whole koyach from Lashon Kodesh, right? So Rabbeinu is saying, you want to know something? So many men are just mamish, running after their titles. They're running after women. They're running after where Lashon Kodesh is manifest, right? Very much so, it's manifest everywhere, but how much women are connected to that? So therefore, they're running after Lashon Kodesh. He says, you want to know something? You know what can get you to stop running after the stuff out there? He says, Lashon Kodesh can. So now Rabbi Nosson explains that when you learn, when you daven, he says that's v'chinas Lashon Kodesh. Everything you say, you talk to a friend in Ruchnius. You stop on the in the bus, you start mumbling some words like Kodesh Baruch Hu, and he said that's v'chinas Lashon Kodesh. And he says, you want to know something? That taiva is known. The Rebbe called it Tave'eres Hamadura, the fiery furnace. So if your Lashon Kodesh, your tefillas and your Torah has fire, it won't have any effect on that type. I have no doubt in my mind that if people like Rav Elyashiv, the Stipler, that, if you put them in a room, you bring, but pardon me, if you bring the prettiest chick in the world with hardly any clothing, I don't think you'd grab them. I put all my money on it. They wouldn't be interested. What's going on? They're so funneled with Lashon Kodesh. There's so many Seifim and Shulchan Aruch and Gemaras that's flying. They're having such a delight in Lashon Kodesh. They're not. You see, that fire doesn't even hit them. They're already, there's such a fire going on inside of them. People are like engulfed in Lashon Kodesh. They hold on to light. Baal Tanya, he was thinking to add one letter in Tanya. He's like, tefillas, this, that. What's going on? There's infatuation with Lashon Kodesh. Why? Should we be infatuated? Maybe we should be infatuated. The Rabbeinu is saying, yeah, you should be. You know why? Because that's the fabric of creation. People are running around, they're buying into creation. They're thinking, like the Matrix, this is, it's all here. What's the fabric of everything? It's Lashon Kodesh. A Jew that learns and davens with fire, you're tapping into that Lashon Kodesh. That's running through. That's the only way we can be saved. Otherwise, forget about it. If I don't have, I'll be honest with you, I met with a Sky Rabbi when I was younger. I know my boy that went to a mixed school, for taste, guys, girls, So I went to the Sky Rabbi and said, listen, what do we do with this Tave'eres Hamadur Shel Tavis Niyuf? What do we do with this fire furnace of this type of sexuality? So the Sky Rabbi said to me, he said two things. He says, one, he says always, like classic advice, it's just better, if you control your eyes, it helps your eyes. It's the eyes with the opening to sit, right? So the person gets images inside of his head, it stays and starts to get out, and that could cause errors. But then he said this word. The Rabbi told me privately. And he was like, the Gabbai was like, Rabbi, there's people waiting outside. But the Rabbi was like, wait. And he was like, he said this word. He said that by Yosef, it says when they threw him in the pit, it says, Habor reik ein bo mayim. pit was empty and it didn't have water. Okay, so Rashi asked the obvious question, but it said, why you have to tell me Ein Bo Mayim? It's empty. Ein Bo Mayim. Okay, so Rashi says, no. There's a drasha. It says, Mayim Ein Bo. It didn't have water, but Nachashim V'Akravim Yeshbo, but there was snakes and scorpions in there. So this guy, what he said like this. He said, what's Pshat? He said that Haborek Ein Bo Mayim, the Torah is telling you that if the pit, if man, that is from the ground, Ha'adamah, is empty, if it doesn't have water, what's water? It says, Ein Mayim El Torah. If you don't have Torah, if you don't have Lashon Kodesh running through you, then Mayim Ein Bo, but Aval Nachashim V'Akravim Yeshbo, but there's Nachashim V'Akravim, there's the Satan, there's the Yitzhar, there's Taivus, the weed starts to grow. So he says, you want to be over your type of sexuality? If you're Oisik in Torah, if you're involved in Lashon Kodesh, you're Oisik in Tefillah, you have movement for your soul. Stop stuffing up and corking up your soul. Treat it a little bit. What the heck are you doing? We starve our souls. How many days we starve our souls that can't breathe? You know? Okay, of course it's going to want a chick because you're not giving it any Lashon Kodesh. So it wants to go after what the Nachash grasps from Lashon Kodesh. Hashem Yerachim. You know? And the pits that one could fall in. No, it's not. But if a person's cooking, a Yid has to be cooking with Lashon Kodesh. Right? The fire has to burn a little bit. Always forget because there's other fires out there, right? So that's the thing. So major connections. I could sit on this for years. Wow, it's like unbelievable. These silas, the things that the shoresh of Isha of one woman is deep. Maybe that's where they get the whole thing from, because they very much they're connected to how to the essence of Dibur, where the world is created, formation. So man intrinsically is interested in the formations and the shapes of women, but that's how the Taiva could grasp a person. But if a person's oiches to Lashon Kodesh, which is the shoresh of women, which is the shoresh of everything, then that fire won't have a connection to you. That fire won't engulf you, won't wrap you up because it's a fire. It's like a storm. It doesn't make any sense. Just like in a fire, the fire burning in the building, people don't grab what's logical. Sometimes they grab, my trophy, what the heck, it's a fire, the building burns, get out, It's illogical. The nature of the fire just it consumes. So a person, if he uplifts himself and goes to the shorish of Lashon Kodesh, then there's a certain shmira that I guarantee, I'll tell you in my life also, times that I had Torah running through, like I had my kaviyah seats and so I had my chavusas and stuff. The Baal Davar was a lot more like, okay, I could chill, But when I didn't have how hard I have any Torah, then wow, I forgot the drive was just like a crazy drive. There's something there. It says, it doesn't say in the Gemara, if you bump into the Torah in the street and Uncle Sam, with the hat, he says, drag him to the base medrash, right? Drag him to the base medrash. There's a guy, big Rosh, but he's a Rav now, but he first came into Shayashiv, he was like a Hell's Angels dude. He's a Jew. And he's like, and he comes in, I'm telling you, dude. He comes in and he's like, he like basically cuffs himself to like a table. And he I think he throws like Rabbi Freifeld the key. And he was just like, Rabbi, don't unlock this for a long time. And that guy now, you think you go to one of these schools, one of these yeshiva katanas, you see boys with payas running around, there's rebbeim that they have. Who's the person that runs the school with the white beard? It's this Hell's Angels dude. Mom should begin like it's how can it be? It's unbelievable. The power of Lashon Kodesh being this matters, learning what that does to you. We all know. If the Gemara could tell stories of bandits, Reish Lakish, this, that, turning around, Mamish becoming one of the Gedolei Yisrael, then we have to know that it does something. It can do something for us. Maybe it can do something for us too. Do some Reish Lakish that is such a crook. Hey, maybe even Nebuchadnezzar, me, it could do something. You know what I'm saying? So how much? So that's one consciousness that the Rebbe is bringing in this study. Yeah. How are we doing with time? A little more?
A little more.
All right. Now, so the Rebbe says over here, this new piece.
Thank you.
B'zeh bechinas chashmal. This is the aspect of chashmal. Chayos eish memalalos. Okay. Chayos eish. So this aspect of chashmal, he divides it up in two words. Okay. Chash and mal. We'll see. Chayos eish memalalos, referring to certain angels of fire.
Hell's Angels.
Well, mamalalos, right? Which comes from speech. Chayos eish bechinas chava. You should know these fiery angels is the aspect of chava, is referring to chava, speech, isha, hainu bechinas lashon hakodesh. She'al yodo, that through these fiery angels that's created from speech, mismalel umishtaber eish hamedura shel shavin kochavim. It completes and it breaks mishtaber this fire, this cauldron of fire of the 70 stars, and we said that comes into the desire of sexuality. So again, right? Chayos eish malos, these fiery angels that's created is the aspect of chava, which is created from speech. We all know that speech creates angels. We all know that. So which this aspect of lashon kodesh, this chayos eish in kedusha, she'al yodo mismalel umishtaber eish hamadura shel shavin kochavim. Now, what's this light of the 70 stars? What's going on? So the Zohar HaKadosh says that the stars are the 70 main stars, and it has a certain. Oh, there's another place. I'm sorry. In the Zohar it says that every day of creation has a star. And he says there's one star from the beginning of creation that goes all the way on the 6th day, on Friday, and Erev Shabbos, interestingly. It goes all of a sudden to the front, and it goes basically in line with all the other stars. It attracts all the other stars, and it all comes together, and it shines one light. This is on Thursday night. So the Zohar HaKadosh says you should know the tremendous impurity that brings into the world. It's called the Northern Star. When the Northern Star does this like little dance, it brings together all the stars, and it shines one light. It says that light is what emanates the taiva, the temptation for sexuality into this world.
Thirsty Thursday.
If you ever wanted some, bumper sticker about this thing that the Zohar says, he could definitely make one. Okay, so
Love it.
cheers. Yeah. So that's the thing. So the Shiva Kocham, so the impurity that emanates with all the stars of all the nations. Every nation has a mazal, has a star. When it all comes together and starts shining one light, one impure light. What's the one impure it's that type. You should know. Rabbeinu said. He says the Yitzhara, Baal Davar, came up to him to make a deal. The Satan the devil came to Rabbeinu to make a deal. So it's like like Illuminati lab, like it's a big deal. So he said this. He said the Satan was like, I'll tell you what, any time in the world you mention, I'll let you be like the Baba Sali, you'll be like the Mamish, the Merkava. You'll totally shatter that time. Anything way above. You won't have you can put the most delicious food. You won't even have a time at all. You'll be like nothing, just a shadow, just a shadow. But just one area, let me have a little connection to you. And he said, through what? Through that time of Yisod, through Shemir Sabris, through the time of Niv, sexuality. And then heard him, she got a fear offer. And then he looked back, he's like, no, I'll give you a counter offer. So you know what I say? He said, I'll let you attack me and tempt me with any taiva in the whole entire world, but this taiva, Mom is not giving it, not at all. Say, what? And I was reading, I was like, wow, that's a crazy one. What just went on there? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll let you tap into everything. But I'm not going to let that. So he used to eat. He was like, yeah, let me eat. Whatever, it's all good. That time of nothing. You know? So why is this? It's such a thing. You know, you should know that tzaddikim, you know that the tzaddikim got their koach from Yisod. You know, like, Shmirat Tabrit, you know, like, there's no, like, what we see, like, you know, people like, about the Abu Chatzeres, you know, the tzaddikim of Hashem, they were like Kadosh Eliyot, especially in this area. And completely, you know, he said, and this is the only chassidut that really talks about it. He said that he had nisyonot, he had tests, he overcame them. Mamash David, you know. Rabbeinu says you should know, like, whenever you see you're being tempted with the taiva, you see that it's the Yitzhar is trying to get after you, because it's trying. It's mamash coming after you. So he says you should know those are the areas that Hashem wants you to be most your nefesh, the most in tefillah. You have to daven. You know, I'm telling you, before I get impressed, I think, oh, you know, I have to tackle this type of, you know, that's it, you know, I'm going head on. That's not Shach daven. You stand in front of the Lashon Kodesh, you stand in front of the Baruch Hu, like, Tata, Zisa, help me. I can't do it on my own. But it says, Yimeina Kodesh Baruch Hu Ozro, Lo Yacholo. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wouldn't help you, you wouldn't be able to overcome the Yitzhar. So the Chazal is telling you don't have what it takes, or you think you have what it takes. Whenever we think we have what it takes, that's when the Yitzhar starts coming in. Okay, now Amalek steps in the ring. So we start thinking we got what it takes. You know? I don't know what it takes. Stand from I'm a behemoth. Stand from doing something. Stand from Shem. I'm a behemoth. I have titles. It's okay. Admit that. You know, Rabbeinu said, you know what the greatness of Rav Nosson is? He's a smooth, nice piece of mud. Just a shtick, chalak, blot, which means mud, a piece of mud. Praise, the shvachis, you know, my Talmud, the Heilig Rav Nosson shit. No, you want to know how I said it? Smooth piece of mud. Nothing, everything will slide off. That's the word. He told another Rebbe, he said to him, he was talking about Rav Nosson, what a gem he is. And he said to him, how will I find him? Like, I want to find this guy. So he says, you know how you would find him? He says, he's the kind of guy that you go out into the shuk in the middle of the marketplace and you hold up a quarter or whatever and you're like, who's going to go buy me a bagel? So you see some chassid, like, run up to you and be like, sure, what kind of bagel would you like? It's like, that's Rav Nosson. He knows Shas, he knows Kol Torah Kulo. He knows Mishnah, he knows Zohar, he knows Gans Shulchan Aruch, the Mefarshim, Nasi Kelim, but he's mamish like a piece of mud. He holds himself like nothing. Like he's a behemoth, I'm nothing. And you throw mud at him, he'll be like, I deserve it. You know? I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. How do you do that? If I knew Shas like that, I'd walk around, I have fur all over here. So, you know? Yeah, you can imagine? People, you get Gaiva with Torah. They said, no, nothing, shmata. He said when he came to Rabbeinu, he left his das at the door. Rabbeinu told him to learn Mishnayos. Imagine like, someone like Rav Eliyahu Kalber walks in and says, your schedule is Mishnayos. You know, his father's furious. They were Gedolei, Litvish Gedolei. He's telling my kid to learn Mishnayos. You know, he's 18 prokim Mishnayos every day fly. You know? So, but the mice, look what he made him. You know? Likkutei Moharan, all the rabbis, Torah is flying from world to world. How he explains. I'll be honest with you, if it wasn't for Nosson, you wouldn't be sitting here right now. The whole light of the light of the reflection of Rabbeinu comes through Nosson. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any of these gems. You know? We probably wouldn't relate to God like the way we do, through simcha and azamra and positivity. We have to know. So Lashon Kodesh, what it does, the power that it does. I want to just end up just a few little things, just practical things you should know. That it says that everything Rabbeinu says the Sefer Midas, the brachas that you give your children Friday night lasts for doros. It doesn't just go on your children. It goes forever and ever on your children's children. You know, we have brachas of ancestors still writing on us. I get testify to that, you know. So there's a certain power like the Reb Chaim Chernovitz says, Shabbos we come. He says, how come on Shabbos we do Kiddush, all this stuff? First of all, night. Night symbolizes dim, to this time of darkness, judgment. You come, you get Kiddush Friday night. Kiddush, and also, what do you use? You use a cup of red wine. Red! I mean, come on, it's Gvura City. It's at night, a red cup of wine. You might as well wear a red Bekish while you're at it. It's everything's dim. So he says, what's going on? He says, from the power of the Lashon Kodesh, from the Dibur, you say Kiddush Friday night. It has the ability, it sweets, it's mamtik all of the judgments. It's like mamish, like light. It's like after the Aravas, after they're clapped, all the judgments are sweetened. I was dancing by some Chassidim at a Breslov wedding the other night, and then they were like mamish pumping up and down. And then one Chassid, he smiled and he called out this. He's like, it's like the Aravas. He said it in Yiddish, but it's like the Aravas after they're clapped. Meaning there's a certain lightness that you feel after the judgments are sweetened. Every time you hit the Aravas, you have in mind one of the Sofei Tevas. There's 5 major judgments, and they're all the Sofei Tevas, and you have in mind a letter that sweetens judgment. It's tremendous power. It's like we're hitting the judgments. We're like beating it that it should go away. So just stand off. We can still chill, but I'm saying like just like a tefillah, just to create some sort of tefillah out of this. We got major, not to be. See, there's a thing of ribui or. You also learn a bit. You don't want to be too. You want to take something out of this practically. The Rebbe said, for my lessons, the main thing is to walk away with something lemaisa. So I don't know about you. You could share how you feel, what you get out of this, but something that I get out of this is that. First of all, if the Rebbe calls this taiva Taveirus Hamadura Shel Taivas Nif, the fiery furnace, so he's basically, we're on the same page. You know what I'm saying? He's telling you that it's crazy. It's mamish, and it's nuts. We walk outside the door, we're faced with this fire going around. So how can I be saved? First of all, we're going to try to understand later how he first starts off the Torah by saying this face to face, and then it's hearing it from someone. And then he starts talking about the benefit. He starts talking about what does face to face mean, and then he starts talking about Lashon Kodesh, meaning there's a way that you could tap into Lashon Kodesh that's face to face. That's like it's burning through you, so then nothing has any koach on you. But then there's a way to relate to it that's distant and very as if you're in a slumber. And unfortunately, a lot of us could sometimes fall into slumber. But we should make a tefillah that Hashem should help us, that we should be awake and we should use Lashon Kodesh to run through us. And the tefillah is every single word of Torah that we learn, every single tefillah that we daven is funneling that koch of Lashon Kodesh, which is really the shorish of where women get their whole strength from anyway. So if I want to have any shaykhs, to have any koach against this type that we're all being bombarded with, it's if I'm ochiz to Lashon Kodesh and I have that in shleimus. And Rav Nosson explained that to me: be a warm Jew. Don't be a cold Jew. Have warmth. When you learn it with a warmth. Be bothered by a kasha. You deal with the Rashi. Look what the Rashi's saying. I pointed out to a friend of mine and said, in Chulin, we saw Rashi, he said a major thing there. Build it in your life, make it a big deal, because these Gedolim made it a big deal. The Chazon Ish, one time there was a story that he was in a meeting with the Gedolim. This is already in Europe, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the meeting, the Bacher runs in with his Gemara, and he's all he looks like he's mamish cooked. He comes with his Gemara, he's like, Rabbi, just a quick question. And he said, yeah. He said, this, this Tosfos and the whole shop, he said, this comes out like the way the Pshat he said in Shir, but like a Zoy, it would, if it comes out like this, it would be good, right? And Chazon Ish starts thinking, and he says, yeah. He said, it does work out like that. Shkoyach. And he said, okay, great. And he goes, it's not the Gedolim, yeah, it's nice. The boy had a kasha and a gemara. This time he wants to figure it out. It's very nice. But in the middle of a meeting, there's a Gedolim convention. People, you're sitting down, you're talking, he runs back. And then you answer him. It's interesting. So then he said, yeah. He said, you have to understand, because for him I make an exception. So this is why. He says, because if he doesn't get shot, of Shir and what he's learning. He says he can't eat, he can't sleep. He starts deteriorating. So for him, I make an exception. So they say that was Reb Shach. That boy was Reb Shach when he was young. Fiery, furnace. How do you tell? It's a fiery furnace out there. None of the Golim had it like this when they were kids. We do. What's the answer? Lashon Kodesh. Whatever I say, whatever I daven, whatever any word of Torah, if I bring warmth to it, it can give me a shield to be protected from that furnace that consumes people. We should be manish. Orchis the Lashon Kodesh b'shleimus.
Amen. Shkoyach.
Simcha